Welcome back to the county seat. Our topic today is indigent defense. Our guests on the show are Jared Eldridge, who is Juab County attorney, Darcy Goddard, legal director for the ACLU of Utah, and Richard Mauro, who is on the Supreme Court Task Force on Indigent Defense. Now, I know that's not the total name, but we couldn't get it to fit all the way across the screen. So I want to start with just a general question. Any one of you can pick it up and run with it. But where does this problem seem to be the worst at getting good indigent defense provided to people who are involved in criminal cases? Is this an urban issue, or is it a rural issue, or is it both?
We've been looking into indigent defense for some time now, and we've actually found problems in both. The problems are perhaps not unsurprisingly different in urban areas versus rural areas, but there are definitely issues in both.
Okay, what's your take on it as a county attorney?
My take on it is that I don't see that there's a huge concern. I think that there's always areas where we can improve, and I think that by and large, the public defenders across the state, whether it's in rural areas or in urban areas, are really good at doing their jobs. Now, that's not to say that there aren't a few exceptions out there in some areas that could be improved.
Are there shortages of public defenders? I mean, Juab County is fairly lightly populated, but you're fairly close to the Wasatch Front. So, I mean, but like...
There would be some counties where there would be a thin pool of defense attorneys.
Daggett comes to mind.
Yeah, Daggett County, you know, even down like in Wayne County and in some of those areas that are more sparsely populated. There's not a large population base, and obviously attorneys need clients, and so they're going to tend to gravitate towards areas where there's a population base.
Because this might be a good call for people if they want to go to some of the beautiful recreational rural parts of the state, that there might be openings for good lawyers or something. I don't know.
And I think the problem that needs to be addressed is the state and federal government require that those that cannot afford a lawyer in a criminal case be appointed one. Mm-hmm. And the state has the ultimate responsibility of assuring that that occurs by statute. And what we hope to have ultimately is a competent, qualified lawyer that doesn't have too many cases, that can pay his or her overhead and is compensated well enough to do that, and has a contract with the county that allows them to do all of those things. There seem to be some areas of the state now where improvements need to occur in that process.
Is workload a problem? I mean, I would imagine that can compromise adequate defense if you've got a guy that's just handling too many cases, and I suppose the disparity of compensation would be an issue too, would it not?
And I think that it can be an issue at times, but maybe not in a way that people would normally think, that a public defender may not necessarily be overwhelmed with criminal cases that have been appointed by the court. It might be in an area of the state where maybe there isn't a huge criminal caseload, and so they decide they need to take some private clients also. And in that regard, maybe an attorney might overschedule himself and sell short the public defender clients. And that's a concern, and that's something that as county attorneys across the state, we're certainly looking at that issue, trying to decide, is there a way, first of all, is there a widespread problem, and if there is, what should we do about it?
And one of the issues that came out in the story is that budgeting is a very hard problem for counties to do. They just don't know when a crime spree is going to come through, and it's very hard to anticipate it. So there's been talk about a pool. Is that a solution?
I think a pool is one of the potential solutions that exists. I mean, you want to ensure that you have lawyers that are properly trained to do criminal defense. Oftentimes in some of the rural parts of the state, you have some lawyers who are just out of law school or are ostensibly real estate lawyers and do other work that don't always have the requisite training that's necessary to understand how to take on a complicated criminal case or a serious criminal case and how to do an effective job, and then juggle the rest of what their caseload is with the rest of the work that they do. That's a challenge that is being addressed in part by the task force with recommendations that are being made to the counties and to the state.
But some of that really could be the adequate compensation, couldn't it? Because, I mean, if you can only, if we had to run this TV program on interns only, it would suffer a little bit. And so if you've got people that don't have trial experience, then we're coming back to a situation that you know, well, are we paying enough to get enough people with experience to actually give people the service that they deserve constitutionally for defense?
And that is one of the big problems we've seen. Counties tend to take the lowest bidder or the close to lowest bidder when they're looking for people to do public defense work in the counties. That's not always true, but it's mostly true. And often that person is someone who has maybe been a public defender in other places for very short periods of time and that contract hasn't been renewed for one reason or another, or it's someone who's fresh out of law school, like Rich was saying. Just to use one county as an example, a county in the middle of the state, and I won't identify which county, you have a public defender who is carrying a felony docket of almost 200 felonies in any given year. His cases are not just in that county where he's the appointed public defender, but they range from Cedar City to Salt Lake City, so there's substantial time that he spends doing that. He also has a not insignificant civil practice, and for all of that he gets paid $60,000 as an independent contractor. So out of that $60,000 a year, he's expected to take out his taxes, his health insurance, life insurance, whatever benefits he needs to give his support staff, the payment for his support staff, all of his travel expenses, and everything else that is necessary to mount a good criminal defense. And if you just look at the numbers, that's not a lot of money.
Well, that's true, but in deference to the counties on the other side of that issue, they have a fiduciary responsibility to be as conservative with the taxpayer dollars as possible.
They absolutely do, and that said, in this county in particular, just in the last year when they were decreasing his salary by his contract payment, not a salary, by $5,000 a year, the county was increasing the salaries of the two contracted county attorneys, one fairly significantly, and also allocating almost $60,000 for a victim witness advocate, paying her salary and also all of her benefits. So it's not something where the county is so cash-strapped that everybody's taking cuts.
Okay. But let's very quickly, and we'll have to take a break, but let's very quickly address the issue of would this pool and some of this funding be better handled at the state level? Is this something you think the state should be responsible for?
And if I could just address quickly the pool, if we're talking about having a pool of public defenders to take cases statewide, I'm not sure that that's really workable. You know, if you've got cases, for example, down in a remote area like Kane County, you know, I'm not sure that attorneys from the Salt Lake area are necessarily going to want to travel down there to take a case. You know, maybe some kind of regional arrangement would be a better solution.
What I was thinking more in terms of is a financial pool, a pool of money to help the counties cover those budgetary shifts. So it would be a pool that could be tapped by the counties collectively. And so if Juab County has got a lower crime load at one particular time and Beaver's got a little bit higher, then they could tap that funding pool and make a request of it.
Okay.
And that's actually very similar to what they've done with capital cases. They have a capital defense fund where most counties in the state put money into it on the understanding that when you have a capital case, it's just so much more expensive than any of your other prosecutions or defenses out there. And so in the end, everybody who wants to participate pulls money in, and then when they have a capital case, let's say 1 in 5 years, they can take money back out of that fund.
Well, we've covered quite a bit of ground here. There are a few things that we want to cover when we come back, and we'd like to look at where the responsibility for funding should lie and talk about some of the problems of getting clients properly represented. And we'll do that right here on the county seat. We will be back after a short commercial break to continue our conversation on indigent defense in Utah. Stay with us.
Logan, Utah. We've got it all and so can you. It's in your own backyard.
Come get away for 2 days of fun on June 24th and 25th for Mighton Days. There'll be a parade, barbecue, talent show, vendors dancing, car show, and a horseshoe competition. Bring your friends and family to enjoy some good old-fashioned fun in downtown Mighton. Duchesne County. Close enough for business, far enough to get away.
If you look up epic in the dictionary, it's defined as heroic, majestic, or impressively great. Here in Kane County, Utah, we don't need a dictionary to tell us that. We live it every day. Stop reading about life and start experiencing it in Kane County. ATV adventures, jeep excursions, hike a world where the Old West was yesterday and tomorrow is just over the horizon. Kane County, Utah, where epic is more than just a word, it's our way of life.
Take a look. Take a glimpse. Take a peek. You'll be surprised by what you find. Check us out at DesertPComplex.com. Our phone number is 435-843-4020. Adventure, beauty, excitement. Tooele County Parks and Recreation, bringing communities together.